Hello, today I'm taking a look at a hugely popular New Zealand wine. This is the 2021 vintage of Kim Crawford's Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc. So this is the third most searched for New Zealand wine on the Winesearcher website, and actually one of the things we found is that of the sort of inquiries we see that are being fielded by our data, one of the most searched for questions is Kim Crawford a man or a woman? Because I think there's some ambiguity, particularly in America, where it's less found that Kim is a man's name. So Kim Crawford is a man. He was the winemaker at a winery called Cooper's Creek, which actually is about 15 kilometres up the road from us, where we are here, north of Auckland, back in 1996. And he was so he branched out on his own and quickly gained a reputation for making wines that delivered good varietal character at great prices. So value for money wines that were very typical of what they were supposed to be. So he built up his brand until 2003, when he was bought out by an American distribution company called Vincor, and as part of the buyout, he had to relinquish the right to use his name on wines. So these days, Kim makes, along with his wife Erica, a brand called Loveblock, and they're based down in Marlborough. But so that's 20 years since Kim Crawford was actually involved in the brand itself. Vincor were bought about a year later by Constellation, one of America's largest wine producing groups, as such, the distribution in the US has been very strong for nearly 20 years now, and Kim Crawford has become one of the most sort of important brands of New Zealand wine in the North American markets. So largely built on its sort of reputation as good value for money. I mean, this is a wine that sells for around $15 US a bottle. So let's have a look at it and see if it bears out what I've said there. Firstly, the colour. The colour is a very pale, it's not really even yellow, it's more water white with sort of green hints there, quite reasonable green hints there. Let's as well see what I think. The aromas are typically pungent. This is very classic for a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. You have quite green edged aromas, sort of cut grass, asparagus, tinned peas, pea pod, more high-toned gooseberry notes as well. So plenty going on there. It's very pungent, very clearly defined, and yeah, nice intensity of aroma, nice and clean. There are no impurities there. It's a very very fresh sort of aroma there. So let's have a taste. The wine is dry and crisp, but like the aromas, the flavours are wonderfully pungent. You have all those green notes that I was talking about there. The gooseberry, the cut grass, the asparagus, tinned peas, those sorts of notes are all there. But underlying it, actually, there are a couple of lovely tropical notes, sort of slight touch of kiwi fruit maybe, and the way the wine works, it has this, it's not particularly full-bodied, and it's got this sort of fresh, crisp acidity that's mouth-wateringly fresh, quite minerally, quite lemony touches, certainly citric. But then to the finish, because it's not particularly alcoholic and because there's this freshness, you get a sort of a lifted, perfumed passion fruit note coming through, which combines with, there's a tiny touch of sweetness that's been left in there just to stop the acidity, which, as I say, is sharp, but stopping that from being tart and green acidity. So just maybe 4 or 5 grams of sugar there. So it's not a sweet wine, it's still dry, but just to keep it balanced and harmonious. So yes, I think in terms of the question of is this good value for money? I think this is great value for money. If you think about what makes quality in a wine, it's got intensity, it's got quite clean, pure flavours that are easily recognisable. It's not particularly big-bodied, and it's not going to age for a long time. The flavours last for a while though, so they've got nice length. There's complexity. It's not one-dimensional. There are a number of flavours that I'm talking about there. A very enjoyable wine that I think will suit a large number of palates, because it's not as tart as it might be if it didn't have sort of just a couple of grams of sugar in there. So harmonious, enjoyable, not necessarily a food wine, but with light finger food, I'm sure it would suffice very nicely, and yeah, create an enjoyable atmosphere. So I hope you found this interesting. Thank you very much for watching, and do join us again. Bye now.